All right, welcome back to Global Conflict TCG. This is part three of how to make your own trading card game, and I am Brian here, back to part three. So if you guys saw the first two videos, the first video, just as a quick recap, we talked about the Affinity program and how I make cards in it, why I make cards with Affinity. And then in part two, we talked about we showed you how to make a template in Affinity Publisher. So now that our template is done, you can see it on the screen. We're going to go ahead and populate this template, actually make a trading card. So strap in, get something to drink. Here we go. So you can see here from our last video, we got our template. It's pretty much done. So it's all completely blank. We just have our outline rectangle. We got our picture frames here. One thing I did notice on the last video is that our picture frames here for our attack costs are like our ammo or our energy cards. They have this like gray fill line around them. So let's go ahead and remove those because you're not going to want them. What one of the things I mentioned at the end of the video, but when you add images to those circular picture frames, it's good, like it'll populate the picture frame. But if you don't add an image, you want those frames to disappear so they don't show up on your card when you actually print it. So we're going to do that. Let's go ahead and get rid of those frames real quick, and then we're going to start making the card. So it's going to be really simple. I'm going to come over here to the group, like I said. So we'll open up this first group so we can see it's going to be this attack right here. We'll go ahead and open it up. I'm going to go ahead and highlight. Actually, it won't let me select each of them or all of them at the same time. But what we can do, we could do one at a time. Just go real quick and turn it to no fill. And then next one, no fill. There we go. And you can see those gray fill lines or the gray lines are going away, which is good. And we're almost done. So here we go. And we got one more. Just get rid of that. No lines. We don't want those to show up on our finished product. So important to get rid of these. This is just a carryover from another frame that I made in a previous video. So sometimes it'll save your settings like that. So, all right, and we're good. So now we could just see that the frames are here. They're evenly spaced. They do not have outlines around them, so they're not going to show up on our finished card, which is great. All right. So before we do anything else, I'm just going to save it real quick. And so let's go to page one. So we're currently in our master. We're going to go ahead and double click page one. So now we got a blank page here. You can see I have the game crafter template. We're not going to need this template. So now that we have our first page, the next step that we need to do is hover our mouse cursor over the page. We're going to right click on our mouse, bring up the options, and then we're going to go to apply master. And you can see here, it'll show you all the masters that you have in your project. So I only have the one master A, so we'll select that. And then it'll give you some other options to apply it to all pages, odds, evens, depending. So like I said, like Affinity Publisher is really like it's intended to make reading material like books and stuff. But we can use it for trading cards. So we'll just keep it where it's at for the specified page. And then we'll click OK. So now our master is applied. And so you can see all it did is it just took that master template and slapped it on top of this first page. Now that we have our template and our page set up, we can go ahead and actually start adding some styling to it. So usually the first thing I do is I'll add like some kind of background. And this is really simple to do. So I usually start with the rectangle tool. And so I'll take that rectangle tool, I'll start here in the top corner, and then I'll just drag it all the way down to cover the entire card. And so we can see here, it's not showing anything yet because the opacity is set to 0 from the last time I used the rectangle tool. So I'll just go ahead and pump that up to 100. The color we have selected right now is red. And so we can see that this rectangle is actually covering everything in the card. We can't see the picture frame or anything like that. So we can easily fix this by taking this highlighted rectangle, holding the left mouse cursor down, or the mouse button down, and then just dragging it down below master A. And then we could release, and then now we could see our picture frame and things like that. So let's go ahead and change the color. Actually, we might just go ahead and change the whole style. So to change the style of the background, so the color is really simple. You just select a different color if you want. But if you want to change the style or do anything more, more aesthetic, we can go ahead and switch to designer. So here we are, we're in the designer persona. And we can add some other features. So we still have the rectangle selected, which is our background. And just for naming's sake, we can go ahead and just, there we go. We'll go ahead and rename it. We'll call it background. Click. All right, so we know that that's our background, just good practice to do that. So we can apply some different effects. So let's say if we go to effects, how about we can add a color overlay. So we can do that. So now it's black. And let's go ahead and open up the settings. We can make, so this is just another way to add colors. So like here we go, make it blue again. Maybe like a nicer, cooler blue. How about like that? I like this color. And then if you want to add noise, there's a noise slider down here. So that's kind of a cool way to add some texture. So now we have some noise. That's one way to do it. Another really cool feature about Affinity is the program comes with some stock styling. So we could come over here to the styles menu. So we'll click on styles, and then it has some default styles here that you can pick from. So there's some pretty neat ones, like you have frost, which is pretty cool. So one of the things to note is that it'll apply like a gradient texture and color and stuff like that. But it'll also apply like some 3D aspects to it and other things like that, which you can get rid of. But you can pick some of these. These are like good places to start. I would say, for this one, this is kind of a nice one. We got red. That's kind of deep. Oh, that's pretty cool. Deep red. We have gold, things like that. Metal is cool. This one I always think is pretty nice. Got a pink one. How about we go with let's go with something very neutral. Ah, that one's bright. Oh, there we go. Let's go with aluminum. I like that one. All right, so we'll go with the aluminum style. So we'll go back to the effects. And so we could see here that there's some automatic effects applied to it. If we went ahead and applied a bevel, we could just go ahead and uncheck that and it'll get rid of this bevel around the edge of the card. We might as well get rid of it because remember, if we go back to layers, that bevel was right here in the bleed over section in the cut line. So it wasn't going to show up on the card anyways. So no need for that. Go ahead and get rid of the templates. Cool, so now we got our background. Let's go ahead and fill in some text. We can start doing things like that. So sometimes you got to play around with the settings. So it looks like for whatever reason this one, the text boxes are kind of off right now. But we can add some text. So and then we could change the font. So how about we do start with this? Actually, there's another one I like. There's a whole host of different fonts. We'll go with this bold italic, and we'll call this card, oh gosh, we'll call this guy Assassin. That's not how you spell it. And one thing that's kind of nice is they actually do give you spell check. There we go. The Assassin. We'll call him the Assassin. There we go. Kind of a cool, imposing name. So we got our card name. How about attacks? So we'll use the same font. We'll crank it down just a little bit so it's not so big. Let's go 10 font. So we'll give them an attack name. We'll call it punch. Oh, that's the wrong font. There we go. Switch fonts again. And so, like I was mentioning, you can change these in the you could change like the standard fonts in the master settings, but I'm going to go ahead and just change them. You could change them here too. So we'll call it punch. And then as next attack, we'll call it, let's do something cool. Let's do like arm bar. I have to change the font again. So like I mentioned, we probably should go back and just actually change the master. And I think I'm going to do that now. Here, just a second. So, arm bar. There we go. And we'll change the font down. We'll go down to 10 so it matches. There we go, arm bar. All right, and so instead, so I don't have to keep changing those fonts over and over, let's go back to Publisher. All right, and let's go here. We'll double click the Publisher. And let's just go ahead and change the individual pieces of this. So this text frame here, this is going to be the damage number. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to go to my favorites. So I already have these fonts saved as favorites. I'm going to choose the ERAS bold italic, and then we're going to make it a 10-point font. And so that way, when I go back to the main card here, it's going to already be set. So which will save yourself some time. Same thing here. We're going to go the description box. So I'm probably going to do, I don't know if I want to go ERAS bold for that because it's probably not good text for like basic reading, but we can do a demi, which will lighten it up just a tad. Let's try that. We'll make it one of our favorite fonts. We'll select it and we'll keep it as a 6-point font. One important thing to note here, so just a kind of a tip for you guys and something that I learned. So when I first was making these cards, I would set the font to like the lowest I can, which is like 5. And that's okay sometimes, but it can be a little bit hard to read on the card. So like, I'll give you an example. I know this is small on the screen, but one of my first print runs, I went with 5-point font in the attack description. And you can read it, but it takes a little bit of effort, and especially depending on the kind of font that you pick. Like I've made the mistake of going with a font that really used like all uppercase type letters, which makes it even harder to read. So you want to be considerate about the kind of font that you use as far as like the level of degree it takes to actually read the font. So consider the font and then consider the size of the font so that way it's not so hard to read it on your card. Because to be honest, these cards are really small. They're only 2.5 by 3.5 inches. They're not very big. So on my third print run of cards that I'm going to do, I actually bumped up the font size from 5-point to 6-point. And to help with the spacing, another pro tip. So I would go 6-point font, and then to help with the spacing, I would change the font spacing on this side. So this is the paragraph leading. What it does is it changes the spacing of your words and your sentences within the paragraph. So I would bump it down to a 5-point or just one step below. So that way the text is a little bit more condensed and you can fit more of a description or just more words to describe your attack. So that's something that I did, and it works out pretty good. If I go back to just briefly, we'll sidetrack here for a sec. This font here, so like you could see that I used one font for the attack name, and then I switched to a different font in the attack description. It's a somewhat similar type of font, not exactly, but it's a much easier font to read on a card. And then the way that the spacing is, it's 6-point font size and then 5-point font spacing. So it just condenses it a little bit more, and you're able to fit more description within your text box. So keep that in mind. This is super helpful. It's something I had to learn because my first iterations of my cards are really they're really hard to read. And the font choice I made was really a poor choice. So just keep that in mind. In general, when you're talking about like making things readable, or even if you're doing things with like user experience or UI type stuff, it's nice to go with fonts that use upper and lowercase letters because in general, it's easier for people. It's easier on their eyes and easier on their brains to read fonts that use uppercase and lowercase because a lot of times when we read, um, we almost don't even read the words. We more look at the shape of the word, and our mind is able to interpret what the word is just based off the shape of the letters. And so pay attention next time you're reading something. You may not even actually read the word letter for letter. It's more of like you see the word, you see the outline. So like if we look at the word basic, we see the word basic, we see the B that sticks up in the front, and then how it ends with a C, and we just know it says the word basic. And so if you use a font that uses all uppercase, like this font here, it's hard for our brains to interpret what word we're actually reading without actually taking the time to look at each letter. So just some pro tips. I had to learn the hard way. I'd done 2 print runs with improper font, and so I made sure to correct it on my final print run. All right. So now that we've taken font into account, we have a good font here with upper and lowercase letters. And then we're going to do the same thing up here in this group. So we're going to go ahead and update this box. Same thing. We'll go to our favorites, do Harass Demi 6. We'll make it 5-point spacing. There we go. And same thing here for our attack damage. We'll go bold on that since it's going to be by itself, and that's going to be 10-point font. There we go. We're not too worried about the spacing since it's only one line. Not a big deal. And then here we'll go with the harass bold, and we'll make it also 10-point. There we go. Okay. So these are all updated. Actually, we'll come down here. We got this last one to do. Favorites. We'll go probably on the bottom. We're gonna go. We'll have to play around. We can go bold, or maybe we could bump it up to. We'll start with 6 for now. We'll see how that looks. Okay. So now that's updated, we can come back and now that we click on our attack description, we can see that, Demi, it has the proper font and spacing. So, all right. And there we go. So we'll go ahead and add our attack damage. So let's say this attack does 30 damage for punch. And then we'll say the arm bar, let's see, what is the arm bar? Let's say it does like 7. That sounds good. All right. And then all right, so we are ready to add some attack descriptions. Had to pop off for a second there. So you gotta, when you're doing text boxes, sometimes if you're messing around with the settings, you can inadvertently change one of the settings and mess up like the way your type goes, or the way your typing goes into the text boxes. So just a note for you guys. Now we can see the cursor is blinking up here at the top, which is where we want it. Sometimes you got to play around with like the paragraph and the justification of the text within the box. So I had it justified at the bottom for some reason, and just clicking through it, I was able to get it to justify correctly. So I might actually click that through. So what I did is actually went back to the master and justified that correctly. So that should be better. So you can see here it's changed to top of line, which is what we want. I'll go down in this text box next, and then we'll change the top of line also there. So that looks good. And then we'll come here and also change that to top of line. And you can see that the name, the assassin, is updated, which is good. And actually in this text box, I might center it. Let's see if it changes. And it didn't change. That's okay. We'll leave it left vertical for now. All right, let's go back to the card. So we got these updated. Let's go ahead and probably won't want to add a description for this attack, but we will add a description for the arm bar. So let's say flip a coin, if heads, your opponent's unit is now disabled. There we go. All right. So we got some card text. So another thing to talk about briefly is, when you're working through with your masters and stuff and applying text box, sometimes you got to look at the spacing. So like we could see that the title armbar here with the description, it's like right on top of each other. It doesn't look very good. So we can play around with that. Let's go ahead and try to fix it. So we'll go back to our master. I would say the first thing I'd probably start off with is like the actual title. And then let's see, maybe we can let's do a top. Well, that wasn't a top of line, so let's try that. And actually, we might want to go like a middle of line. Actually, that looks a lot better. Okay, so we'll do that for both of these. We'll do a middle line. And then let's go back to the card and take a look. Boom. So now these titles are aligned in the middle of the text box. So it looks like 100 times better. But we can see our attack damage is not middle aligned, so we're gonna have to go back and fix those. But kind of getting back to my last video, this is why having the master templates are so important, because we can make these changes across, hundreds of cards at a time without having to individually update each single card and each attack every single time. So it's just nice going into the master, you make the change once, and then it fixes all your cards, which is great. So let's go back to the master. We'll just update these attack damages real quick. We're going to make these into center align or center justification. Go and click this guy, and this one that will also be a center justification. There we go, and it looks good. So we're well on our way. So another tip, so we just see a bunch of blue boxes everywhere. So that's just telling us where our text boxes and different things are. But if we want to get rid of those and actually see what the card looks like, if you go to view, you could come down to view and then go to preview mode and just click preview mode, and it'll get rid of all the boxes and picture frames and everything like that. So this is what our card looks like so far. We have a like a silver noise background. We got our picture frame. We got our text for our punch, our attacks, and our name. So we're well on our way. We're almost done. So let's go ahead and turn the preview lines back on. There we go. And then let's start adding some pictures. So the first thing, let's add like an emblem for whatever faction this card is a part of. We can come up here to the place image tool. We'll click on that. We will go through some of my images here. Let's see. Sorry, I got a bunch of these trading card assets. All right, so these are all like my different emblems and things that I've made over the last couple years. Let's take the mercenary. I like this one. So this kind of like lone wolf type of mercenary deal. And so we can see here on the picture frame that there's actually a black line border around it. I don't think it looks too bad. I actually kind of like it for this case, but we may get rid of it. So actually, let's do that right now. So here's one thing that we can do. So we have our emblem, right? Let's go back. Let's click on this picture frame. We'll get rid of the stroke, which is the line border around it. So we'll just pop that off and get rid of it. So now it's gone. If we go back, so we could just see now on our card, the emblem is just sitting there by itself, which is fine. But let's say, so like, give you an example. This card here, so the way these cards are, these current cards that I printed, they sit just like this, where the image is just kind of flat on the card. It doesn't have like any type of 3D or any type of pop to it. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of styling so that way it actually pokes out for the card. So the way we can do that, we'll go back to our master, we'll click on this picture frame, and then we're going to go, actually, take it back, we got to go to the designer persona to do this, because we're going to add some styling to it. So we still have our picture frame selected. We'll go to effects, and then all we're going to do is we're going to click on 3D. And then when we do that, we're going to go ahead and open it up. And I don't think there really is any settings that we need to change. We'll just leave it the way it is for now, and we'll just take a look. So 3D, we'll just close it. All right, and then we'll go back to Publisher. And if we look at our emblem now, we can see how it's got this 3D type look to it, and it's got like an artificial light shine. It has kind of lightened it up a little bit, so we can update this. So let's go. We'll go back to the master. We'll click on this again. We'll go to layer effects on that, and then we'll tweak the lighting a little bit. I think I liked it somewhere around this side. It was like right around like, I usually like it around like 90 degrees on the azimuth, and then the elevation around like 45 to 50 degrees. Kind of gives you like this overhead light appearance, which is cool. And so if we go back to the master, you can see that it's kind of, now it's like a more of an overhead light. So this looks pretty good. I like it. It's more of a 3D type of image, and honestly, like it looks like 10 times better. And so if we go back to my base card set, you can see that I did this exact same thing to my current cards, where they're all like of a 3D type of look, and they pop out on the card, and they're easy. Honestly, they're easier to look at too. Cool. So we got that done. That's how we do that. And so now we got to add some attack cost. So it's really the same process as adding the emblem up top here. You're just going to go to the image tool. And then we'll pick, for this case, we'll pick the ammo emblem. And we'll just go and drop that guy in there. And then we'll go back and we'll get another ammo emblem. We'll drop it in here. There we go. And then we'll do the same thing for the next attack. Drop the ammo emblem in there. Oops, actually undo clear. So I forgot to unselect off of that picture frame. So we'll try it again. There we go. All right, and yeah, we got our tap cross. We'll probably just add one more. Kind of an expensive attack, but looks pretty good. All right, so now that our attack cost is done, we probably want to add some rarity or like some set, some set information. So we could say like this is base set, and then we could say this card is like 1 of 100. And then if we want to add some rarity, we can do that. So we'll go ahead and put a dash, and then we'll just say this card is rare. There we go. So we got our card rarity. Looks good. So the last thing we're missing is the actual image for the card. So I'm going to go ahead and pull some of my images that I have right now, but we're going to change this. So let's just see what we got. Let's dig through some images. Here we go. So these are like a bunch of images that I've made over the last couple of years. And so this guy is going to be the assassin. So let's see. I got a couple good ones, I think, that I could use. So I got this guy here as a spy. And then we got this other guy here, which is actually doing an armbar. So let's do that. The picture looks cool. How about this one? So I'll take this picture. There we go. So we can see here, our assassin has this guy in an armbar, and he's trying to reach for the knife to maybe potentially save his own life. And so what's kind of cool is when you drop the picture in the frame, you can adjust the zoom, and then you can also adjust the positioning of the picture. So unfortunately, this picture is not completely centered. I'd have to go back and redo it. But yeah, that's how. So now we got a picture. We got the assassin. And then if you ever want to change it, you can come down in here. You just highlight the picture and then right click and delete so we can get rid of it. And then we could try dropping another picture. So I got another one here. How about this one? Right, and then we'll just drop that down below, and then we might actually slide it over just a little bit, kind of center the action. So yeah, now you can really see this guy really really does have him in an armbar. It took me a while to take this picture, just to be honest. But yeah, so that's the picture I got. So looks like our card is pretty much complete. So if we go real quick, we turn on the template, we could see that how the cut lines are going to look. And then if I just go ahead and I can go ahead and fade this out a little bit for you. And so now we can see the red cut line. This is how the card is actually going to look. And then that black line is covering the blue dotted line. So everything inside of the black line is in the safe zone. So that's how the card is going to look. And you can see all of our bleed over from our background. So where that helps is if during the printing process, if the image shifts a little bit, we'll at least have the same consistent background every time. So that is it for that. So the next step in this process is I just used an image that I took a while back, but if you're curious on how you can make art similar to this and how I made these art pictures in Unity, stick around for the next video that I'm going to post up here in a second. The next video, we're going to cover how I take these images, what I did in Unity. I'll show you some of the set pieces, how I take the pictures, things like that. So stick around. Next video, we're going to talk about Unity and how to get card art for your TCG. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.